So good evening and welcome everyone to Steps to Rebuild, information to help rebuild our community. This webinar is being produced by the Greenline Foundation and Making Housing and Community Happen. The Greenline Foundation works to close the racial wealth gap by providing down payment grants, home maintenance grants, and financial education to qualified people of color to restore justice. Making Housing and Community Happen works for housing justice in the Pasadena-Altadena area and beyond by equipping congregations, community leaders, and neighbors with practical tools needed to transform their communities to end homelessness and to stabilize the cost of housing. We do this through education, advocacy, organizing, and advisement. Tonight, we are gathered here in this webinar to address the tragedy and trauma that our community recently experienced through the wildfires that have left thousands of people without a home or with a home that has been severely damaged, and many others without employment or with employment severely reduced. While there are no easy solutions to this crisis, we do want to address some immediate concerns regarding how to apply for help through insurance and government assistance, what pitfalls to avoid, and how to effectively utilize resources that are available. Presenting this evening are Leon Seabrooks, who is a public insurance claims adjuster. Leon will talk about making insurance claims and applying for FEMA assistance. With Leon will be Pastor Camelia Joseph of Kingdom Works. Then Joanne Valverde, who is a mortgage loan officer, will talk about what to do about your mortgage if your house has been damaged or destroyed by a fire. Then Jasmin Shuper, who is a real estate agent, as well as the founder and president of the Greenline Foundation, will talk about applying for funds through her organization and things to think about when setting up a GoFundMe account. After that, we'll get into some recent legislation. Dr. Anthony Manousis, one of the co-founders of Making Housing and Community Happen, will talk about the governor's executive order regarding rent gouging. Then Dr. Jill Shook, the other co-founder of Making Housing and Community Happen, will talk about the predatory speculators that many of us have heard about and the governor's executive order to stop them. Then Jasmin Shuper will come back and talk about why you should not sell your property. So that's a lot to cover this evening, and we will want to give time for questions. So we have time limits for each speaker that we will announce before each speaker. Jill will be keeping time and may message or even speak up if someone is going longer than we were hoping they would. So as each person is speaking, and if you have questions, please put the questions in the chat and we will try to get to them at the end of all the presentations. But also each speaker is welcome to address the questions in the chat after they speak. So let's begin with Leon Seabrooks and Pastor Camelia Joseph. Leon Seabrooks he leads a disaster preparedness and recovery company whose main mission in catastrophes is to assist policyholders with preparing personal and business property inventories. He has 33 years of experience as an all lines insurance adjuster, specializing in catastrophes around the country. Pastor Camelia Joseph is going to help him. She leads a team in Texas consulting with congregations who want to use their land for affordable housing as well as many other things. So they're going to give us guidance on regarding making insurance claims and applying for FEMA assistance. And we have 15 minutes for them. So I think we're going to start with Leon. Leon, take it away.
Tonight, 10 days after the fire started, roughly 80,000 remain evacuated. So many struggling with what to do.
Here we go.
Okay,
first
Leon, there's somebody that needs to mute. There, now you can go for it. Thanks.
Yes, first of all, I want to make a correction. I'm not a public adjuster. I'm a claims specialist. I used to be a regular insurance adjuster in the industry. But anyway, I thank everyone for being involved in this endeavor, because it is something that we need badly right now to help the people. So what we are dealing with is trying to get the knowledge out to everyone so they don't make the pitfalls that most people make in disasters. there are things that we need to do as a 1, 2, 3. First thing, yes, you should have, if you have insurance, you should have made a claim with your insurance company. And even if you had insurance or not, you should contact FEMA so you can get on the assistant program and get a number. That's what you definitely have to do. We working on a time thing that we're just going to need help. Camellia, I don't see everything I need to see here.
So
Yeah, Leon,
I'm
do you
going to
see the
jump in
PowerPoint?
real quick. It
Yes,
sounds like you're jumping in
Follow
on
the
the 7
PowerPoint for us.
steps. Yeah.
I
Follow
know,
the
but I don't
PowerPoint for
see.
us. You can't see the PowerPoint?
Does it start with don't hire a lawyer, a public adjuster?
Yes,
It
That's
talks
what my,
about
that's it.
timing and saving money and not hiring a lawyer
yes, okay, I
or a
see.
public adjuster. Yes.
Okay, so where we are is that if you go and hire an attorney or a public adjuster before you get a settlement from the insurance company, you're paying their premium price. That a public adjuster would normally charge you 10% of the settlement amount. An attorney would normally charge you 33%. They would negotiate it down if you don't agree with them. But the key is that this is part of your settlement. So we don't want to give money away that you're gonna need in the long run to repair your house. So let's not be hasty and get involved with public adjusters and attorneys. The other thing, we're not gonna be in haste to get a general contractor. They have to be vetted first. Even though they may be signed with the Department of Insurance, we must still get them vetted to see if they are in good standing in their community and in the state.
So
So
next,
then
Go ahead.
next slide, Jim.
there's a slide that talks about the cost of lawyers. So Camilia's going to cover that.
Okay.
Yes.
So if we look at this slide, you can see if your house is, the settlement, the insurance is offering you is $1 million and you hire an attorney at 33%, that attorney is going to get $330,000 and you got to replace that. So your payment will come out to be $670,000. And you've got to come up with this $330,000 from someplace else to finish your house. So that's why many people can never finish their house when they get an attorney. The same thing with a public adjuster. If you hire them at the beginning of the process, then they will charge you an average of around 10%. And with that 10% of that $1 million, that means they get $100,000 and you get $900,000, but the actual cost of you rebuilding your house is still $1 million. So you got to come up with that $100,000. And so over here, I kind of give you an idea here. If you pay an attorney, then this is where you are. If you get a public adjuster, this is where you are. However, if you're going to hire a public adjuster, the best time to hire them is after you get your settlement from the insurance company, because then they charge you 40% of only the difference, the increase that they get for you. So your insurance company gives you a settlement of $500,000 and they get an increase to $700,000, then you're only paying them 40% on that $200,000, which means you're paying them $80,000. And your pay, but look, you gain some money. You're going to get $620,000. So this is what we want you to consider. Be careful about hiring these individuals before. Okay, Leon.
So we're going to talk about FEMA now. FEMA gives grants, and if I'm not mistaken, they're up to like $33,000. And this is money you don't have to pay back, but you have to apply for it. And you can apply whether you had a home or not. Now, if you had insurance, you would have to settle your claim with the insurance company first. Show them that you've already settled with your insurance company, and then you can apply for reapply. Because normally they'll tell you you got to settle your claim first, but you've
Talking
already
about settling your claim first.
yes, you want to settle your claim first. Don't get upset if they deny you first, because if they find out you got insurance, they're definitely going to tell you that you have to settle your claim first. But FEMA, they really helping you to just stand on your feet. It's not something that they're giving you to replace your house. Some things like that will come later. But make
So
sure
this
you get on the
particular
list.
slide is about delineating the difference between FEMA and insurance. Did you want to speak to that at all?
Well, no, the difference in insurance and FEMA is that insurance, you got a contract with an insurance company who has given you limits how much they're going to pay towards your house. One of the things is that you have different type of policies that most people don't understand, and most people here, I say in California, has a replacement or an extended
slide,
replacement.
Jill.
Next slide. Okay.
I think we have a slide on that.
Yeah.
Different policies.
Yes. So
Yeah, that's 3 different types of insurance policies.
Yes,
right.
here we are.
Am I the only one who's not seeing the slides?
Who are you?
See them. Anybody else can't see
This
them?
is Grace,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are
they're
you on your
showing.
computer?
of course, yeah.
Are other people able to see the slides?
Yeah, I believe everybody else can see the
Yes,
slides.
we
Yeah.
can.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, my issue
Yes.
then, sorry. Sorry to interrupt, I'm very sorry, Leon.
That's
Yes.
all right.
So you have a straight replacement cost policy. That means if it's $1 million, you can't get no more than $1 million out of, even if your house costs $1.5 million to repair. Then you got an extended replacement policy, which you could extend to 25% of whatever the limit is. They would give you an extra 25% above that limit. Then there's a guaranteed policy, which very few people have because it's very restricted. That means no matter how much it costs to replace your house, they will replace it.
So I'm
Well,
going
a
to
lot
back
of
up.
times people
This-
have replacement policies and they expect that means that they're going to replace your house completely.
Exactly.
That's the clarity.
Right.
So I'm going to back up, Leon, to this slide
Yes.
that says to keep track of your receipts.
Okay.
If you could
So-
speak to that.
Okay. So what would happen is that somebody's talking.
Please mute yourself if you're
Everyone
not.
can mute, please. Thank you.
So there are 2 things that's happening within your policy, because coverage D is loss of use, meaning you can't move in your house, but they would allow you to move into another house or condominium or something. Okay. Then there is additional living expenses if you have to go move in a hotel. If you go to move in a hotel, you have to keep receipts of the hotel. Plus, if you do not have a kitchen in the hotel, you would have to eat out. So you would have to keep the receipts for your food. Now, an additional living expenses is that, let's say it took you $80 a day for 3 meals in your family, or 40. Okay, but you went out to eat and now it's 120. They pay you the difference in the 80 and the 120. They don't give you the whole 120 because you ate out for 120. They give you the difference. So that's additional living expenses for living in hotels. Now, the other thing, you can actually live with someone and draw up an agreement how much they want to charge you to stay at their homes. And it is legal. You just make sure that they have all the person that you're renting from information, because it's like an agreed contract.
Okay.
So that right there will come under your loss of use also.
So you want to make sure you keep track of all your receipts. You want to document every conversation that you have.
Yes.
So that if you wind up having to go to court, legal proceedings, you have everything documented, the date and time you spoke, and what the conversation was and who you spoke with, and part of
Yes.
your documentation. Next slide, Jill. We did that one. Okay. Now, step 1, Leon.
So
Okay,
you've got
we did
4
that.
minutes. 4 minutes to go through
Okay,
the next.
so the first thing you do is call your insurance company.
Okay,
Right.
next slide, next
Come
slide.
up. I can't see it.
Wait, Leon, we only have a few minutes, so we just gotta hit
Yes.
the point.
Okay,
Next,
so I
number
can't see
2,
it.
Jill. Next slide.
Okay,
Contact FEMA to get your assigned number. So
Okay,
anytime you
next
come
slide.
down the next line.
Mhm.
Meet with the insurance adjuster. And if you have already hired a contractor, you want that contractor to meet you to walk the loss with your adjuster.
Okay,
they
next
work
slide.
together. Mhm.
The insurance adjuster, when he's finished scoping, he's gonna go and make an estimate. And he's gonna present that estimate as a settlement and not a final settlement. But he's gonna tell you how much they're gonna pay you at that time, whether they pay you the replacement at the time
All right,
or the
next
actual
slide.
cash value.
We only have 2 minutes.
Yes,
Next slide.
right. And next, you got to do a thorough inventory of everything you lost in your home. You got to put the item, how many there were, how old it is, and how much it costs today's price to replace those items. And you
Okay,
need to
next
do an
slide.
inventory. You gotta have to get a contractor that's been vetted, certified, bonded, general contractor in the state board. You have to have that. They have to be vetted, meaning you got to have somebody checking and see how they are standing with the state and in local government.
Next slide.
And in taxes, this is another thing that most people don't know about. Yeah, well, if you have a loss, you can actually file, if you have a job, you can file for a casualty loss, which will offset your taxes for that year. So that means we have to do a fair market value inventory and the difference you lost between what you actually had as insurance and what you was paid.
Okay, next slide.
And you have to be working, right, to file that.
You need to be working to do that to have a tax return.
Okay, so we don't have time to go through these next few slides, but I wanted to have this information here for those of you who might review it again. And here's your contact information, a link to file your claim. There's a link here for other services. At the end of the presentation, you're going to see a link with different sites that you can go to the local FEMA recovery sites. Okay. And the key thing I wanted to share with you is that the cost, what FEMA will give you now to help you with your house has gone up. It was 33,000, now it's 42,500, and 2025 is supposed to go to 43,500, but it hasn't done that yet.
Awesome.
And if your car was lost, they will give you up to $15,000 for the purchase of a new car, but you have to have your bill of sale and everything to show that for it. And then also, if your car needs repair, you can get up to $10,000 for that as well. So again, there's other information here for you on the process and how to go through it, and hopefully that'll be helpful to you. Sorry we didn't have enough time to cover everything. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to stop the share and so that let me see.
Great.
Trying to remember how to do this.
Okay.
So anyway, let me let's continue. So that's a lot of information. Somebody asked if we they can get this PowerPoint. And Anthony said he would send that out.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that was a lot of really good information I think people will want to review. So next, Joanne Valverde will speak about what to do regarding your mortgage after a
If I
fire.
may, Bert,
Huh?
let me just, for Leon's purposes, we made some changes on his website today,
Okay.
and that ran into some problems. So he's been tied up with that with GoDaddy up until coming on. He didn't have an opportunity to review the slides to be up to date with it. So, but thank you, Leon. Go ahead.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you so much, Leon and Camelia, for that presentation. So next, Joanne Valverde will speak about what to do regarding your mortgage after a fire. We have 10 minutes for that. So Joanne, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you all for organizing this, and thank you everyone for being here. I'll get right to it. My name is Joanne Valverde. I'm a loan advisor with Fairway Independent Mortgage. I'm going to share my screen with basically like a newsletter that will go over all the information I'm going to discuss today, and it will be emailed to you. There are some links on there that I think are really, really important. And before I get into everything, I do want you all to know that everything, like all this information that we're providing is evolving, day by day. And so we will continue to update everyone as we continue to get updates, be it from the government, from banks, and so forth. So all the information that I'm presenting today is based on what we know now, right? And so with other natural disasters that we've had, be it COVID or Hurricane Helene, we saw lots of changes throughout once those events or those tragedies occurred. So same thing here, everything is still very fresh and new. So we anticipate a lot of hopefully positive updates that will benefit homeowners in terms of options for them going forward. So let me go ahead and share this real quick. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. That's a yes, right?
Yes, you
Okay.
might make it just a little bigger, but yeah, it's good.
Yes. Oh, now we see your window screen, Joanne. It was pulled up, but now it's not.
Oh, it's not. Okay. Hold on, let me see here.
It was right there though. We
Was
saw
it too small?
No, it was great.
Okay.
Yep, that's
Okay,
it.
perfect.
Yep, you're good.
Okay. All right. So the first thing, of course, is mortgage forbearance, right? What is mortgage forbearance? It's basically a temporary pause in your mortgage payment to avoid any type of late fees or foreclosure. The first thing you want to do is contact your servicer. So your mortgage statement would show who your servicer is, and you would contact them directly to find out what options you have for forbearance. Now, there is forbearance for someone who has not lost their home, somebody who is maybe going through just financial difficulties, who lost employment and just can't make ends meet. There is a forbearance option for them. But this type of forbearance that, most families that have been impacted by this would be one that's caused by a natural disaster. And that's what you want to find out from the servicer is, what type of forbearance option do I have with, in my particular situation, having lost a home or, and what terms are those? Because with forbearance, there's different terms. It's basically, pausing your mortgage payment for a certain amount of time, be it a few months, up to a year. There is interest that is still being accrued. So you're basically extending the life of the loan. Meanwhile, you're not making those payments, right? There's no fees that are being involved. There's no late fees, and but you do want to find out what terms there are, and every servicer will be different, and not every servicer will be up to date with what's going on in LA County. So just be patient with that. You may have to call back, in a few days and, have them do their due diligence to get you that information. But number one, call the servicer, find out what options you have, right? Right now, your next payment is coming up February 1st. Technically, you have a 15-day grace period. So I would, that next payment is not due until February 15th. So just keep that in mind. As I said, things are constantly evolving, but that is an option you can take. Now, there are some unintended consequences with that. And as of now, if you are currently in forbearance, you would have to, in order to purchase a new home or take out a new mortgage loan, be it a refinance or a purchase, the forbearance would be on your credit. And so as of today, you would have, like, you know, since nothing has been put out yet on this, there is like a 12-month waiting period before you can get another loan. And so that's sort of the drawback right now for having a forbearance on there. If there is no intention of purchasing anything or getting a loan, then, you know, the forbearance is there for a reason. That option is there. But all I'm saying is call the servicer, find out, and maybe don't do it right away, because things will evolve over the next week or two as the government hopefully steps in to provide some, you know, some more support in that aspect. The form here will show a link, and there'll be more guidance here as what we know. And I won't go through that because I'm limited on time, but there is more information for you there. So the other thing I do want to discuss on the forbearance piece is if you are looking to purchase a car, I would call the,
Did you notice the
I would call, be it the finance department or the, you know, the auto dealer, whoever you're thinking of purchasing a vehicle with, and find out if having a forbearance on your credit impacts that by any, like if it affects it in any way, will that prevent you from purchasing a car? You know, if so, maybe purchase the car first and then consider doing the forbearance. Like I said, it's a great option, and, you know, many families will need to put a pause on the mortgage. And I spoke to a few people on this call earlier who organized this, and hopefully we'll be able to keep providing you updates as we go, like I said, because I do anticipate, just as they did with COVID and Hurricane Helene, you know, as those things happened, government stepped in and they provided, you know, just a lot more support for deferring a lot of different types of payments. And banks also jumped on that and were able to make, you know, exceptions for these type of things. And so I do hope that that happens rather quickly. So next is your insurance piece. So once you file your claim and you get your check, this is really, really important. And you receive that check from your insurance company, that check will be made out to you and the bank. And so you will need the bank to sign that check in order for you to cash it. And so I've listed here on this form all the information that most banks will require when you're, you know, once you have that check in hand, you know, date the property was damaged, the cause of the property damage, the dollar amount of the total damage claim, right? Not just the actual like initial claim, but what that final amount is. And then the copy of the adjuster's worksheet. Banks really work quickly on this piece. So, you know, you would be possibly overnighting this check to them. They would then be signing it and then sending it right back to you. So this isn't a long process. You know, they want you to have this money in your account as soon as possible. So just know that banks are, you know, all across the board will work quickly on that aspect. And just as long as you can provide all this information listed here. So that is that. And then potential property tax relief. This is another really important one that I think could be helpful. Let me see if, so there's, if I click here, are you able to see that county assessor's form?
No.
No, we
we
still
can't
see the
see it.
newsletter.
You still see the newsletter, okay.
Yeah, you could quick and then, yeah, share the screen.
So there is a form that will be, there's a link on the form that you'll receive that takes you to the county assessors. And basically it's a form that you will, that you'll sign, that you'll fill out. Sorry, it's not. So, here we go. Jasmine, can you see that actual form that you need to fill out here? Yep. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. So you'll fill this out. It's a way to hopefully get some relief on your property taxes. The damage does have to be at least 10,000. But this definitely should help with that piece. And as we know, California has very, Los Angeles has a very high property tax amount. So definitely try to get this completed. There is also a link on the form that I will show you here. Let's see. Let me show you here real quick. Okay. So there is a link on here that takes you directly to the site, and there's a section on there where it has FAQs, just questions about this. But my recommendation is that you fill out that form as soon as possible, send it in. I can't go over all this information that's on that's on the link or on the site, but it basically has almost any question that you can think of in terms of how do you file, like where do you send everything, how do they assess the property now that it's damaged and so forth. But I think the form that you'll receive from us has all of this information, and I hope that it helps. I know that all of this is very information overload, but once you have it all sort of together here with a few steps, I hope it helps. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Joanne.
Yeah, thank you, Joanne. That was really helpful. And I see there are already some questions in the chat. And again, we will send this out. And I don't know if Joanne, if there's some links you can put in the chat that might help people.
Absolutely.
That'd be great. Thank you so much. So next we have Jasmin Shuper, and I made a mistake. I should have had Jasmin introduce Joanne, because Jasmin knows Joanne very well. And in fact, if you want to take a few extra seconds to say something about Joanne, that'd be great. But Jasmin is a good friend of ours, an amazing person who founded the Greenline Foundation, which addresses the racial wealth gap with down payment grants, home maintenance grants, financial education. And she's going to talk about applying for funds through her organization and things to think about when setting up a GoFundMe account. And you have 10 to 15 minutes. So go ahead, Jasmin.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Bert. And thanks everyone for being here. Joanne, thank you for that. I think, and Leon, it's been really great information that you've shared. Like Bert said, I do know Joanne because she is actually one of our preferred lender partners that we work with as a part of Greenline Housing Foundation's efforts to close the racial wealth gap through homeownership. So as we give down payment grants to qualified Black and Hispanic people, Joanne is one of our lenders that we work with. She cares about the community. She's here and she's invested. And so I appreciate her time as a professional, taking her time out to make sure that we as a community are informed and prepared. To rebuild our lives after this. So thank you for that. Like Bert said, I'm just going to talk a little bit about Greenline Housing Foundation and what we do. We are a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to close the racial wealth and homeownership gaps and reverse the effects of systemic racism in housing that have happened through practices such as redlining. To that end, the grant actually becomes a form of lost equity that's intended to repair what centuries of legal housing discrimination have broken. Due to and I want to be clear about something too, the devastation caused by the wildfires does not discriminate on the basis of race or ethnicity or class, right? The devastation knows none of that. However, due to systemic inequities, it is statistically likely that Black and Hispanic communities will have a harder time rebuilding. And that is what Greenline's efforts in rebuilding and participation in our Eaton Fire Relief Fund, that is what we will be focused on specifically. We recognize that Altadena, the communities of Altadena and Northwest Pasadena have a rich cultural heritage and legacy. And Altadena itself is kind of the poster child for what Greenline is hoping to accomplish through furthering the occurrence of minority homeownership, in that the homeownership rate, the Black homeownership rate specifically in Altadena, is almost twice the national average of the Black homeownership rate. That is because you know, when redlining was pervasive in Pasadena, minority communities or minority populations were pushed north, right? So they were able to settle in Altadena and establish, you know, livelihoods, and they have a thriving, you know, middle-class neighborhood, build community and build that generational legacy that was so difficult because of legal discrimination in housing, right? Legal racial discrimination in housing. And so it is very important to us to help this community rebuild, restore, and remain. That is our focus of our Eaton Fire Relief Fund, is to help communities, the Black and Hispanic communities with this rich cultural legacy in Altadena and Northwest Pasadena, to rebuild, restore, and remain. Specifically, what does that look like in our fund? Well, we are a housing oriented, right? And we're positioned well to respond to this because it's what we've already done. It's what we already do is focus on disenfranchised communities and help them further generational legacy through home ownership. And preserving homeownership, right? And so that's what our efforts will be concentrated in. We're going to focus primarily in the medium term and the long term. In the medium term, what that looks like specifically is helping our Black and Hispanic communities to be able to identify and procure and pay for long-term temporary housing so they can remain in or near the community while they rebuild. What we know about natural disasters that have affected minority populations, similar to Hurricane Katrina or Hurricane Harvey, is that if people leave, if they're immediately displaced, if they find temporary housing, if they leave right after the disaster, they are statistically much less likely to return and rebuild in the community. And that will be a huge loss for the communities of Altadena and Pasadena if we lose that rich cultural legacy, right? So we're focused our efforts in the short term, or in the medium term, on helping to acquire and pay for long-term temporary housing up to 1 year, to that's my daughter's friend calling, of course, long-term temporary housing to remain in the community. So specifically around the community, that'll look like the cost for rentals, because the reality, especially for this community that has been here for generations, is that if your house has been passed down from generation to generation, you likely are not paying market rents, right? You likely are not prepared financially to make the significant jump in housing costs that will come if you have to now all of a sudden pay market rate housing costs, right? And so we are going to help stand in that gap in a very tangible and financial way. And that's our medium-term plan. Long-term, like Leon touched on earlier, we recognize that a lot of our target demographic, it's very possible that they're underinsured, right? Because of the rising cost of homeowners insurance in California, and depending on the difference in coverages, it is very likely that the communities that we're trying to serve will be underinsured, and there could be gaps in the actual physical cost of construction over what insurance will cover, or even FEMA, like they talked about the FEMA limits. FEMA limits will not be adequate to rebuild your entire house. And depending on where insurance comes in, there will be gaps. We do not want it to be cost prohibitive for people to physically rebuild their structures and stay in their community. And so our long-term efforts and what the proceeds of this relief fund will be used for will be standing in those gaps for the actual physical cost of construction, and also assembling, which we've already started to, and amass a network of professionals, trusted contractors, trusted architects that are willing to participate in this effort, and donate or give pro bono or low bono services to this effort. So that will be our long-term goal, is to help with the actual physical costs of rebuilding for people in Black and Hispanic communities that have lost their homes due to the Eaton fire. So that's our specific thing. And it's obviously going to be a large undertaking, right? I mean, there's a lot of devastation, there's a lot of damage, but friends, it's crucial to the makeup of our communities that we are able to help our Black and Hispanic brothers and sisters rebuild, restore their communities, and remain in their communities. And that's what our Eaton Fire Fund will be focused on doing specifically. As far as how, you can participate in that. We have an intake form, that we'll send out in an email, but that is just give us your information. Tell us what you need. Help us to be able to, meet immediate needs to be able to disperse funds. So there'll be an intake form where we can just, collect data on our community. Are you insured? Do you have insurance? Have you received a settlement yet? Have you filed a claim? Where are you at in the process? So then we can say, okay, do you need, housing, long-term temporary housing while you're figuring that out? And then, also, what do you need for building? So it really helps us to ascertain the need. And then our application process, we already have an application platform because it's something that we've used in the past for our normal course of business, pre-wildfire. And so we'll be able to administer that application in a way that's not overly burdensome. We recognize that people are having to fill out so many things, right? And that's hard. And so we've created a very streamlined application that will let you know, kind of quickly what you could be eligible for. And then obviously it'll be predicated on funds. So tell everyone, because our only inhibiting factor to really tangibly participating in this rebuilding will be the amount of resources that we have to give. And so, the more we receive, the more that we can give and help our community, because 100% of those funds and that wildfire relief fund will go to these two initiatives that I discussed, this long-term temporary housing and the actual physical costs of rebuilding. So I think I covered everything. Bert, did I cover everything?
I think so. That was excellent. And just as Joanne has been putting some links in the chat that some of you will be very interested in, Jasmin, you might have some links also.
Yeah, I have. Okay. So my team is hard at work finishing our intake form. It's almost completely built. Yeah. So we'll send that out in an email. In the meantime, people can go to info@greenlinehousing.org and we'll get put on the list and we'll just automatically send you the intake form. So I'll put that.
Yeah, I just put your link and put it in the
chat. Yeah, so people can email info@greenlinehousing.org and that we'll answer any questions and send the form out.
Excellent. That's an amazing thing happening here. Thank you so much, Jasmin, for all the work you've been doing and the work you're doing in this crisis. That's quite amazing. And
questions in the chat. I see a few hands up. Feel free to put your questions in the chat. We'll take those at the end.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned this, but people can contribute to the fund too, right?
Yeah. I mean, we need them to.
Yes.
I mean, this is an ambitious rebuilding effort that we're hoping to participate in. Yeah. That's a great question, Robert. And we can look into getting that translated. As of right now, it is not, but we can absolutely look into that getting that translated. That's a great question. I appreciate you asking that. Yeah. So if again, 100% of the fund, so whatever we receive directly goes to these two very specific rebuilding efforts. Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much.
And we're a 501c3, so it's all tax deductible.
Excellent. So we're going to move on now to some pertinent legislation that has come out in just the last week. So Dr. Anthony Manousis will begin by talking about the governor's executive order regarding rent gouging. And he's got 3 minutes. So Anthony, take it away.
Okay. I guess, Jill, am I going to have my slideshow?
I'm going to pull your slide up so you can go ahead and get started. I'll be there shortly.
Okay, my 3 minutes starts as soon as the slides are up.
Right. There you go. Let me do it from current slide. Slideshow. Current slide. There you go.
Okay, so put it on slideshow.
Yes.
Have you got it? Okay.
Yeah, it's ready to go.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about tenants' rights. Up to now, we've talked about homeowners. I'm going to talk a little bit about tenants. Next slide, please. So I always should say that my job in MHCH is I'm involved with the advocacy wing of our organization. So what I'm going to share with you now are just some of the issues that have come up for renters. And one of them has been price gouging or rent gouging. Now, it is illegal to raise the rents more than 10% above pre-emergency levels. And there's a penal code number 396, which says that if you do that, as a landlord, you could face a year in jail, fines up to $10,000, or both, along with civil penalties. So rent gouging is a serious business. And next slide, please. So, by the way, this applies both to existing tenants and new leases. So God bless Governor Gavin Newsom. He's extended California's rent gouging protections in response to the firestorms. And this executive order prohibits rent increases of more than 10% in LA County through March 8th, 2025. So landlords cannot jack up the rent during this period legally. However, many landlords are breaking this law. A tenants' rights activist named Chelsea Kirk launched a public spreadsheet on Zillow listings that appeared to show a more than 10% hike in recent asking prices. And he had 40 volunteers helping, and they found 700 listings that broke the law. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. By the way, these citizen law enforcement agents contacted some of the landlords and kind of shamed them into lowering their rents because they knew they would be facing legal action if they didn't. So next slide, please. So the LA Tenants Union has released a series of demands for the city to address the disaster by implementing a rent freeze and eviction moratorium. This has also been the case with the Tenants Union here in Pasadena. And Jill and Bert and I stood in solidarity with the Pasadena Tenants Union at the city council meeting on Monday. We called for a rent freeze and an eviction moratorium. And the Tenants Union in LA has also asked the city to seize vacant units, Airbnbs, and hotels to reserve for people experiencing homelessness, saying everyone deserves housing through the state of emergency and beyond. And they had other demands, which included swift enforcement of anti-price gouging laws and pause on active evictions, ban on algorithmic price fixing, and renew rental assistance program to help pay rents, since this is going to be a huge issue with 100,000 people displaced from their homes. It's just putting a lot of pressure on the housing market, especially the rental market. Next slide, please.
What do you think the chances are of this actually happening?
Depends on how much pressure we can put on our elected officials. That's why I'm bringing it up. Just another note, if you have, we just need to work together. MHCH is committed both to affordable housing and to tenants' rights. So that's why we stand in solidarity with the Tenants Union. And local municipalities can enforce a rent freeze or an eviction moratorium extending beyond the March deadline. So if a city wants to do that, they can legally do it. And some will, and we hope ours will be one of those. Finally, about... Your time's up. Oh, okay, my time is up. This will be said to you. This is about rental insurance. And just my final slide says that here in Pasadena, the current rent control laws are in effect. You can't raise the rent more than 3%.
Excellent.
On
Thank
existing
you.
tenants. Yep.
Thank you, Anthony.
Okay.
And, 3 minutes. Yeah. So now we're going to quickly move on to Dr. Jill Shook, who will talk about the predatory speculators that many of us have been hearing about and the governor's executive order to stop them. And she's got 3 minutes, or else she's going to say something to herself about that. Maybe I can set the timer here.
Yeah,
3
that'd
minutes.
be helpful.
Okay. Okay.
I think that we've got, I need to get myself, somehow my PowerPoint's not up. So I'm wondering if someone else could go next. I'm not quite sure what happened.
This is not your PowerPoint?
No,
That's
no,
Anthony.
I think it's Anthony's. Yeah,
Can you stop the share on that one? Because no one else can do anything until you stop.
yeah.
Okay.
So let me see what took place here.
Should we move on to Jasmin again?
Yeah, go back to Jasmin, please.
Okay, so Jasmin's going to come back and talk about why you shouldn't sell your property.
Yeah, and this
Jasmin?
kind of builds off of what Jill is going to talk about. So I'll just mention it, Jill, and then you can go back and show your PowerPoint once you see it. But one of the executive orders that came out deals with speculation against trying to get people whose homes were lost in the fire to sell their land undervalued. So you can't try to solicit somebody to sell at an undervalued amount. That's called speculation, right? For 3 months. 3 months. So friends, we have 3 months to give people enough confidence that they don't have to be desperate and sell their land. We have 3 months to do that because what's happening is the predatory nature of people trying to exploit victims of natural disasters and try to capitalize on that and profit from that, right? So we're seeing a lot of developers and institutional investors offering to purchase these burnout lots from people who have lost their homes so that they can then turn around, flip them, make a profit off of them. And without any regard to the fabric of the community, right? And so recognizing that, one of the executive orders that has come down the line pertains to that. And so people are not allowed to make undervalued offers or speculatory offers to purchase burnout lots from people who've lost their homes in the fire for 3 months. That's crucial because, again, it gives us time to mobilize resources and to organize, nonprofits and community members so that we can support our community so that they don't feel like they have to sell, because if they do, right, this is what happens. So let's say you have a house on a lot pre-fire and it's worth $1.5 million because you've owned it for 40 years, right? So now what's considered in that valuation is the cost of the land and the cost of the building on the land, right? Both of those things are considered as a part of that $1.5 million. If there is no longer an improvement on the land, then you're just talking about the land itself, which is worth significantly less than if there were a structure there. So it actually behooves people to rebuild, especially the population that Greenline is trying to help, whose wealth is their home, right? And so if you have a $1.5 million home, unfortunately, it's burned down. And then you sell the lot that's maybe worth, $500,000 or $700,000, then you're losing out on $700,000, $800,000 worth of wealth just to get that quick cash, right? So if we can get people stable enough to rebuild their homes and get them the resources to rebuild their homes, they won't have to sacrifice that wealth that has taken generations to accumulate. So that is why. So tell people about this executive order. And if they have been approached, they can report that. They can report that. And it's a misdemeanor. Governor Newsom has classed it as a misdemeanor now. So please encourage your communities, encourage your congregations. Do not sell your land. Just hold on. Help is coming. We will help you rebuild.
Thank
Jill,
you so much.
yeah.
You did such a great job explaining what I was going to say, actually better. So I really appreciate you jumping in. I'm just going to share this one slide is all. So it's basically reiterating what Jasmin just said. Under market offers by opportunistic investors in communities such as Altadena threaten the character and the vibrancy of the community and could displace and endanger vulnerable residents who have long ties and investments in the community. It's modeled after a similar order issued by the Hawaii government, Josh Green, after the wildfires destroyed the town of Lahaina in Hawaii. And so I'm really proud of our governor for doing this. It was really fun to see this picture because it shows Catherine Barger right there with Governor Newsom. Right next to Newsom is Pastor Campbell, then Lena Kennedy, and just a bunch of folks that we know and love and work with in this photo. So thank you, Jasmin. And next person is up.
That is it for the presentations. So we can go to the questions now. So let me see.
Were we going to say anything more about taxes, or was that?
I think that was
already
addressed.
covered? That was covered. Okay, great.
Right.
Yeah.
The
So
GoFundMe, I think, was our were we going
Oh, yeah.
the what?
the
Yes.
GoFundMe accounts?
GoFundMe.
Oh, yes, something mentioned
Oh.
about GoFundMe. Yeah, basically, there's a lot of things circulating around because people obviously have started GoFundMes in order to recoup some of those immediate expenses or recoup, some funds and get some immediate support. And there's talk going around about if you have a GoFundMe, then you could be disqualified from receiving FEMA funds. So what it's important to do, you can receive both. It all comes down to the language in your GoFundMe. So if you say like, here's this GoFundMe to help us rebuild our house that we lost in Altadena during the fire, it's possible that GoFundMe will see, okay, you already have specific support for this one thing of rebuilding. Conversely, if you say raising money to help cover expenses that might not be covered by FEMA, or if you keep it broad, if you use more general language, then you should be okay. And again, I'm not an expert in that, but the key is to keep it broad, ensure that you use broad language on it and not identify one specific thing that the GoFundMe things will help you to accomplish. Does that make sense, people? So that's an important distinction to make when people are doing their GoFundMe. So they should modify their language so that it's not even an option. Because again, if you say, I need a new car, mine was burned in the fire, here's a GoFundMe for me to raise a new car, then FEMA will look at that and they'll say, okay, well, they've already got some money towards a car, right? And so we'll take that off of what they can do. The reality is people who have lost everything are going to need resources from multiple locations, from multiple people or organizations, right? And so keeping it broad ensures that, okay, whatever FEMA is going to cover based on that application, then you get from FEMA and you maximize that amount and whatever, and then you can also use those GoFundMe funds. And then hopefully if this Eaton Fire Relief Fund that Greenline has, then you don't have to use those monies for paying for long-term temporary housing because that will be covered for you. And you can use that to help your family, rebuild in the myriad other ways that rebuilding will be necessary. So, yeah, so that's just a little blurb about FEMA and GoFundMe. And I'll quick share my screen. I'll tell you what they said about it. And again, none of this is like concrete, but just keep it broad just to be safe. And this is from FEMA's website. If I receive donations from a GoFundMe page or similar, FEMA will not help me. Again, that's the kind of rumor that's circulating. And their response, again, not super clear, but that's why you keep it general just to avoid any kind of issue. But FEMA cannot duplicate benefits that you receive from another source. So again, if you say, this GoFundMe is to help me replace my car, FEMA can't give you funds to help you replace your car. But if your GoFundMe is for additional expenses over which FEMA might not cover, or broad and general language, then you'll be less at risk of having them say they're duplicating the sources of funds. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
they give an example too. If you receive donations to clean up storm damage, FEMA may not be able to also grant you financial assistance for home cleanup. So,
could you take this link and put it in the chat for us?
Sure.
Excellent. Thanks, Jasmin.
Mhm.
Want to get to some of the questions now.
Hold on, let me stop share. There we go.
Ellen asked in the chat, she says, I'm a renter and have been communicating with my owner for filing insurance for the structure and me for the stuff inside. We're still standing, but no power, and don't know about the particulates indoors. Any idea if Edison will be discussed? Okay. I'm anxious for more info on the Paloma circuit. I don't know if anybody has any information about that, about power. Is that what you're asking?
I don't. Yeah, I
Okay.
don't.
I guess the question, does she have renter's insurance herself or?
I can't. Is Ellen, are you still here? You can unmute and ask your question if you are.
Ellen Stein.
I'd like to just jump in on this. I'm not an expert, but I think that what I have read is if your apartment is not habitable, you don't have to pay rent. And if it doesn't have electricity, running water, or some of the basics like that, and it's suffered smoke damage to the point where it's not safe to live in it, then you would have a case you'd have to vacate the apartment and you wouldn't have to pay for the rent.
Yeah.
But I would go with a tenants union to make sure that you are in compliance with that law. But I'm sure if your apartment is not habitable, you don't have to pay rent. That's the law.
And
But
also,
it sounds like it's still
approach,
standing. Yeah.
you should file a FEMA claim so that you can get transitional housing.
Yes, yes.
They can put you up in a hotel.
Right. You actually go to FEMA and then they send you to the Small Business Association and you get a loan.
Anthony, I found out this morning,
Yes.
from my FEMA expert, FEMA no longer sends you this SBA. Remember I said that
Okay.
yesterday, right?
All right.
So they used to require you to go to SBA. They no longer do that.
Okay.
And they just take your claim and work your claim.
But you can get
If we have some time and I can go back to my slides and share those couple of slides that we didn't get to, I think it might be helpful if we have time.
But you can get a loan, a low interest loan as a renter. That's the key thing.
You can get a loan.
Up to 100,000. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's cleaning supplies. You can get $300 if you have soot and you need cleaning supplies from FEMA as well. So there's a number of things on my slide I could share if we have time.
Yeah, let me see here. I just didn't want, I know some people have been waiting
Do
to
you
ask
have
their
any other
questions.
questions?
Yeah. There's
Len,
several.
did you want to ask your question? I see you put something in the chat, but do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Sure. I saw in the MHCH newsletter that Jill had polled the Black churches, right, or many of them in Pasadena, Altadena, about the number of families that had lost homes, and I'm wondering if those lists can be channeled to like Jasmin and others that are specifically seeking to provide assistance for Black and brown families. I see that Pastor Larry Campbell is on the call right now as well from First AME.
And Pastor Campbell's congregation lost 54 families lost their homes.
Yeah.
So yeah, New Revelation Missionary Baptist, 50 families. So it's devastating.
Did you get Metropolitan?
I did not get their number, no. Maybe Pastor Campbell knows. He's on the call.
Pastor Campbell, can you speak?
Yeah. So I also learned today about some resource where there's an organization wanting to put trailers on church campuses. So for temporary housing. So and possibly work with Greenline and supplying some trailers that would go on to sites.
And we're working with tiny home manufacturers as well to see if we can get some tiny homes. And depending on the size of the families and their needs, their space needs, that could be a resource as well for people so that they can remain in or near the community and
Because I'm sorry, just a follow-on question too. Like you mentioned, Jasmin, just keeping people physically close by is important, right, for their long-term resettlement.
It is.
So if that's, that being the case, how feasible is it that individuals or couples or families would want to be housed within the home of an existing, someone in another church in Pasadena? And how could that be brokered, basically, rooms and homes kind of thing? I'm just.
Yeah. So we're creating, a poll, or almost like kind of get help platform specific to housing. It's just related to housing. As far as like, for example, we spoke to a lady today, she's 72 years old. Her parents bought the house in Altadena in the 1940s, and it's been in the family ever since, right? And so she wants to stay close by, but she's a single woman with a dog. And so we are now looking, okay, like who can house a single woman with a small dog, right? And it's going to be a phased approach too, because it has to be. There's immediate short-term housing needs, and then there's long-term temporary housing needs as well. And so it's possible some people could be in a hotel, for 2 weeks, and then maybe an Airbnb for a month, and then need to graduate to that long-term housing. Right. And so we're creating a platform to kind of keep the pulse on that, again, just specifically as it pertains to housing.
Okay. So it'd be important, I think, just to coordinate with Amara
Yeah.
CCC, right? About
Yes, yes. And I've been in touch with Myra at CCC. Yeah.
Great.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then Tamara as well.
Okay. Thanks,
Forward.
Lynn.
Excellent. So I just want to get some of the other questions here, and I want to see if we can get back to Camelia and her slides if we can. Ellen also asked, she says, I'm in unincorporated Pasadena. Does rent control apply? There are exceptions. I'm in a townhouse development. So Pasadena's Measure H rent control does not apply in the county, but the county has its own rent control. So you might want to, I don't know the specifics of the county's rent control, but there is rent control for the county. And then the state has an anti-rent gouging law, AB 1482, and that was expanded under the governor's executive order. So that's statewide. But in terms of just ongoing rent control, we need to look up the county's rent control, because there is, my understanding is there is rent control in the county as well. See, then if the damages
Ellen
were
might
caused.
want to ask her question again, but
Um,
I don't know. Did you get
I
your question answered?
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. My original question, I think, was about Edison, because my townhouse is standing. It's just that, and I have gone to retrieve stuff that I didn't take when I was in a panic Tuesday night. But it smells of, there's a lot. I don't know if there are toxins. I've been communicating with my landlady. She's going to contact her insurance company. I'm going to contact mine. And I understand from mine that I will be covered for stuff. I mean, I'm hoping that that just circulating, putting a MERV filter on my HVAC and circulating the air will make it habitable. But I do have mild asthma, so I'm not anxious to go back. But I certainly want to wait for power. But what's frustrating me and members of the President Street's listserv above me is that Edison is not being specific at all. I would just like to know, are we talking on my circuit, which is the Paloma circuit, are we talking days, weeks, or months? I'm down at my goddaughter's in Long Beach. I don't need housing right now, but I don't want to overstay my welcome either. So I don't think I should be applying for FEMA. I think I should just be going with my landlady to the two insurance companies. But I just wondered if anybody how to get more specific info about the circuits on, like I'm on Washington and Allen.
Okay. Ellen, I don't know if anybody can answer that, but we definitely recommend that you do register with FEMA. You never know, that might be some things that once your insurance company settles with you, it may come up short of what you need.
Most of it is food. Most of it, the damaged stuff is food, and I hoard food, so it's
FEMA
two
deals with lots of
freezers.
food. Leon can probably speak to that major issue that you're talking about, that the smoke damage in your home.
Yeah, well,
you're a homeowner or your renter?
I'm a renter.
Okay, but he can still speak to that. You're muted, Leon. You're still muted.
I'm hoping that I can get away
Leon
with.
and I just talked about that. He said that there was a swab or something that they could
on the window sills,
wall surface, to find out whether you have that, whether you need
right. My friend had that, and she's a little north and west of me. I really don't want to have invasive things going on. I'm in the middle of decluttering. To have anybody in the house right now is going to be an imposition on them and me, because I'm not ready for company. So,
but Ellen, you said you have a problem with asthma.
I have mild asthma, so I really don't want to be. I want to be, but I'd love to test. I'd love to get tested.
Please have a test. Because the chemicals will be in your walls.
Yeah.
Yes.
Leon's unmuted.
Leon, can you speak to that?
Yes. So you're going to have to get some professional people that actually mitigate the smoke damage because it gets in the ductwork, it gets in the paint. So you're gonna have to get somebody to mitigate that. Some people like Servpro or Service Master.
The
You can
ducts would
contact
be
them.
fine, but having a paint, I am not in a position to have a paint job without moving out.
Okay, so you know that your
Yeah,
prerogative. You know, you're still in control of your life.
It's
yeah,
your
I'm just
health,
trying to give you
it's your
some
health.
suggestions. You know.
yeah. The ducts definitely, I think, need to be cleaned. Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree on that.
Right.
Service master, someone like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Service Master, Service Servpro.
And
Somebody was saying
talk to your
negative things about ServPro on
talk
my
to your
neighborhood
insurance
listserv.
agent and see if they'll take care of it. If they won't,
Okay,
file a claim with FEMA for it.
okay, but I should go through my insurance and my owner's insurance first, right?
You need to file, everybody should file a claim with FEMA, no matter what. You do that, you get your FEMA number, and just in case, maybe you'll get
Okay,
everything whole, but just
yeah,
in case your insurance company doesn't take care of everything for you, FEMA gets your gap, takes care of that gap for you.
okay,
So
Right. But one
everybody,
thing I have to say this: if you don't own the property, that property owner is the one going to have to get those ducts cleaned out, not you.
correct. I told her, yeah.
Mhm.
She's cooperative, so I just, yeah.
That's
Okay,
true.
thank you. I'll
Well,
sign up with
Okay.
FEMA then. Thank
Well,
you.
yeah,
thanks so
Okay.
much. Yeah, Leon and Camelia, that was very, very helpful. And Jill put the link to the LA County rent control ordinance in the chat. So the link
Okay,
is there. Can we let's allow Camelia to go back to her slides, so
okay.
she can
Can
do
I
that.
share?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna, Camelia, did you put the slide at the very end?
I have it. I have it.
Oh, you have it already. Okay.
Mhm. Okay, so we have here your link to register, and everybody should get a 9-digit FEMA number. You just don't know at the end of your process with your insurance company, you may come up short. And if you don't get your number after a certain period of time, you can't go back and get it. All right. And we also have the link here for you to register with them. You can register online, or if you choose to, at the end of the slide, we have the 2 slides that have the closest places that you can go and get help to do that. Okay. Things you need for authentication is your social security card, insurance information, your damage information, your financial information, contact, direct deposit information. Now, I have a worksheet that we'll send with the slide presentation that's going to go with you. That gives you details on what those specific things are. Okay. Find out the DRC, that's the Disaster Recovery Center near you. There is one near you on Foothill, and there's another one, I think it's in Glendale. All right. One person files for the whole household. If you have a spouse, then you should have your spouse also register as a co-register. Otherwise, they will not be able to access the file. If so, you file, your husband or wife file as a co-register, and that way both of you can talk to FEMA. Okay. But one person for the whole household. If you have 10 people in the house, only one person files. Okay, because it's about the house. Okay, not individuals. The inspector will come out and inspect the location to determine your damages and come up with a payment plan for you once you have submitted your settlement from your insurance company. And so when you file your claim with FEMA, my contact said it's very important that you use this language, that if your insurance company doesn't give you enough money, you can go to FEMA for additional help, and you want to use this language that you need help to make your house sanitary, secure, functional, and habitable. Those 4 words are very important for you to put in your claim. Okay. So FEMA will give you 42,005, a maximum, okay? And that, if your insurance is giving you so much and you need that total, they're gonna give you that total, okay? It's supposed to go up to 43.5 this year, but it hasn't kicked in yet. FEMA no longer requires you to go to SBA, but you can go to SBA, you can get up to $500,000 loan for 30 years at a 2.8 or 2.3 interest rate. And it is a loan, you have to show that you have the ability to pay the loan, of course, okay? Personal property, you can get up to $9,000 to $10,000 for personal property. Those are your household items, those kind of things. Your car, if you lose your car completely, you can get up to 16,000. If it's car repair, it's actually, I'm sorry, it's 15,000. I made that correction. And then car repair could be up to 10,000. Okay. And then shelter, transitional shelter assistance is available. And that's where you would stay in a hotel that has a contract with FEMA. Okay. Displacement assistance, if you're going to stay with someone else in their home, you can get up to $3,500 to pay rent, but you have to show receipts and your rental agreement for it. There's no advance payment, you get reimbursed for it. Okay, house, maximum FEMA gives, okay, I just did that. No, I got that again. Okay, personal property. Okay, all right. FEMA serious need assistance. With this, you can get up to $770 immediately from FEMA for this. And this is for assistance for like food, medication, lost baby formula, those kind of things. All right. If you lost your job, disaster unemployment assistance is available to you. And here's the link for that for California in order to apply for those services. And that's it. Those are the key things I wanted to make sure you had to take away. It's in the PowerPoint. Share it with other people that will need to know this information.
Thank you so much, Camelia. That was very important information. I'm glad we got back to it, and I'm glad it's going to be in the PowerPoint that's sent out.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions? There was one more question in the chat about smoke damage. Let me see here.
Yeah, it was Tiffany. Insurance company covered cleaning the outside of the property and then ashes. Was that it?
Yeah. Yeah, does the insurance company cover the cleaning of the outside of the property? There are ashes everywhere. There are ashes everywhere in my condo complex, and we're south of the freeway. So that's a good question.
Yeah, and I typed a response in there, and anybody else that can
I
answer
think
that, please
Leon
feel free.
could speak to that. Leon, you're muted again. Maybe you should stay unmuted. Since that's a problem. Okay, all right.
Let me see.
Still muted. Press.
So
Okay.
you know that right now the city of Pasadena has signed a contract to get a lot of the outside areas cleaned.
Okay.
So that will be one big help. I'm very grateful for that.
Yes.
Will they do
So-
the
so-
property, Jill, or just the streets? Do you know?
I think I've seen them already working. I think they're mostly the street, but I'm not 100% sure on that. They just passed it today at the city council, so I think we have more information on Monday.
Okay,
So
Leon.
Leon,
Let me
Leon,
address this
Yes,
cleaning.
come
They
on.
will,
Thanks.
the insurance company will
Sure.
pay for power washing and
Hey, I'm
cleaning.
washing.
we've got someone else talking. I want to make sure we can hear you, Leon. Why don't you start over?
Okay, so the insurance company will pay to clean the exterior and the interior of your house. That's part of the claim.
Okay, what
This
about
comes under your
clearing the houses that are totally burned down, clearing the property?
They will pay for the demolition of that property,
And
including the foundation.
Mhm.
All the foundation gonna have to be taken out because the heat and pull all the moisture out of the concrete and it's gonna crack. So they'll pay for the demolition of that also.
Mm.
Mhm.
So the heat causes the foundation to crack, so you can't use the same foundation.
No, it's not because the concrete has a moisture level in it, even though it don't look like it. When it pulls it out, it's gonna crack. So
What
they can
happens?
put.
Yeah.
Go
What
ahead.
happens if you don't have any of the blueprints of your property?
Well, if it's not so old, you can go to the city and do that. If not, you're gonna have to get somebody and explain what you had in your house, so they can do a diagram. And it's gonna be difficult, but it can be done. You know, just tell
What
somebody the size of your house, what you approximately think of how big your living room and stuff, and it can still be done.
So what if you don't have insurance and you're
So the-
really stuck, or maybe you had a reverse mortgage? What can you do then?
Don't know about reverse mortgage, but if you don't have insurance, then of course you want to apply with FEMA. Your maximum you're gonna get is at 42.5, and apply with SBA. You can get 500,000 if you can prove that you have the ability to repay the loan. You know,
Right.
those options.
So I
And
think
Joanne, I don't know if you can
that
speak to
you
the
have to-
reverse mortgage component or not.
I think Leon also said that there's some organizations that will come and help actually build homes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
There are organizations like UMCOR. I think I said that. There's
Yeah.
UMCOR, which is the United Methodist Church, the Mormon Church, Mennonite Church. So many of the churches, the Baptist Church, many of the churches have wonderful disaster response organizations that are, I mean, they have money, they have volunteers, and they come in like a truckload of folks, and they will build you a house. It's amazing.
And that's why we don't want people to panic and start selling their property,
Right.
because this is plenty help out here around the country. People gonna come and help.
That's right.
Okay, so that's why I don't want them to be in dire strait. It's gonna be help is coming. And you have to be a little patient, but help is coming.
But don't
And then
please.
I had
Yeah.
one of my churches that we worked with in New Orleans, when we did our tour of his area, all we saw was a cement step, and the house looked like pickup sticks. It's just old pieces, a wood frame house. And the Mennonites, I think it was, that came in and built a beautiful home. And I mean, really, and they didn't spare anything, you know, beautiful cabinets and countertops and
yeah, so there are things, there are things that can be done. And then did somebody have a question about reverse mortgage? I just want to give Joanne a chance to respond to that if she's got some information about that.
No, I think Jill might have mentioned if there were reverse mortgages, those don't really, I would say they're almost non-existent at this point. So I don't see
really?
if any.
No, there's quite a few folks in Altadena who had
Oh, yeah.
reverse mortgages, that lost their homes.
With reverse mortgages.
They had homes that they've been in their family for years, and they took out reverse mortgages on them.
I don't know. No idea.
Well, with reverse mortgages, typically they would owe, you know, that balance continues to increase over time because it's a variable rate, which is why a lot of lenders stopped doing those type of loans quite some time ago. But if somebody did have that, then, you know, still they would go through the process of talking to their servicer or their lender to find out forbearance options. They would still have the same options as a regular type of, and I'm so sorry, I'm thinking reverse mortgage. My mind just went totally to a totally different type of program. I apologize. Please erase what I just mentioned. I'm thinking a totally different type of program. Yes, reverse mortgages. You are absolutely right. There are probably many people that have reverse mortgages. And I apologize. It's been a long day. So with reverse mortgages, still the same thing. They would have an option to do a forbearance. This is obviously a type of loan for senior citizens, and they, depending, you know, on the type of reverse loan that they would have selected, because there are a couple different options. You know, depends on what they would owe based on, you know, the type of the amount that they would currently owe right now. But regardless, they would still have some forbearance options. Apologize for, I thought you were talking about a totally different type of program, but yes. they
No
would-
problem, no problem.
Well, excellent. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thanks to our presenters. We're at 8 o'clock now. I just want to say one thing to Camelia's point. Also, Habitat for Humanity builds homes, and don't know the details yet, but I'm going to be meeting with them on Tuesday. Hopefully, get some of the details. They want to set up here in Pasadena and Altadena, start rebuilding.
That's awesome.
But that'll be something that people can volunteer with too. And
yes, yes.
and also, you mentioned Mennonites. The Mennonite Disaster Service I know is coming. I may find out more from them on Sunday. So I'm a Mennonite. I go to a Mennonite church.
They're awesome. They're
Yeah.
awesome.
So anyway, thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you.
I just want to be clear with everybody. I in no way wanted to disrespect Leon, and I was just trying to help him through the process because we have such a short period of time.
Right, it's good.
I just wanted to help you out, brother.
Thank you.
We can tell y'all. We can tell
He
y'all are
has so much
friends.
valuable information. I wanted to make sure we give it.
You guys did, you were a good team. Thank you so much. And thanks
Yes.
everyone
Thanks,
for
everyone.
coming in.
Yeah.
So I think we should stop the recording.
Yeah.
And if there
Oh, the
are any
recording stopped,
additional
yeah.